Hello, amazing ones. Hey, we are so excited to be here. Laura Wick here with the amazing Shayna Hartman.
Hello.
And we were just chatting and got really excited and decided, screw it, let's just go live and talk about this. Because if you haven't noticed, I've been talking a lot about um, embodiment and understanding the role of embodiment and transformation. I know we have a lot of folks here that you come from the holistic space, and you probably have a lot of experience with embodiment and what that looks like. And typically, what we find with a lot of holistic practitioners is like there's this gap in how do I translate what I'm feeling and experiencing with my clients during the session? How do I actually help them get that, right? How do I help them listen to their bodies? How do I help them, actually take what's showing up and translate that into their lives? I also know that there's a lot of coaches around here who you love transformation. I don't know about you, but I love coaching. Obviously, I created a coaching certification program. And chances are, like what we see right now in the coaching world, it's like mindset, and take action and have the perfect funnel and have this process and do the process. And as coaches, what really is going to deepen your results with your clients is actually embodiment. And so we wanted to pop on here today and talk about embodiment and what that means, because I think sometimes embodiment, I think where we all kind of grasp this is like yoga and meditation, obviously massage, like those are absolutely forms of embodiment. But what we're talking about in terms of having an embodied coaching conversation is something that is so much simpler, so much more profound. And Shayna and I were talking, and Shayna is a graduate of the Body Mind Coaching Program. If you have any questions about it, you should reach out and talk to her if you're considering it. And also, she's a writing coach. And so you might not think college professor who teaches writing, you might not initially put embodiment together. And so we want to kind of talk about really like the misconceptions, what it looks like, and of course, if you want to learn more, I'm doing something fun. So yeah, Shayna, how was that for an introduction?
That was great. Yeah, I think honestly, just the fact that we're here is a little bit of an example of kind of being in tune with and being embodied, right? So what is so powerful, I think, about embodiment is just anytime I think of the word connection. I was having a conversation, just kind of a connecting, someone wanted to connect and just get to know each other a little bit a couple of days ago. And she was like, oh, so you help people write their book. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, well, who's your ideal client? And I immediately like put my hand to my heart, and she noticed it. And I said, well, I really love to support heart-centered, mission-driven people who just have these messages, these things they know they need to share in the world, and they're not seeing their voices represented in books. And so they want to embark on this journey. And she's like, what's this? What's this you're doing here? And she was creator, content, like copy editor. So we had some similarities, right? Writing and creating. But she was like, yeah, I don't have that. What is that? And it was just an opportunity to really talk about, well, how do you like to be connected to yourself? How do you know? Where's that place inside of you that just like knows things, right? You just get this hit. She was like, oh, right. Then we could have a conversation, then the conversation deepened. And I think embodiment, I think of the words connection. I think of the knowing places. And a lot of times people, I think, and even myself, thought I had to do something else. Like I needed to learn breath work or become a meditation. Yeah. In order I had to have like this part of my time with clients where, it was silent, it was whatever. And what I love about what I've learned and continue to learn in my work with Team Body Mind and the Body Mind method is embodiment is anytime you're just feeling connected to yourself, and it's different for everyone. And so I don't have to come as coach with the embodiment, right? Because there's no one right way. I just get to be and support my clients in that. So I'm curious, Laura, like what you hear in that, and maybe what are some of those, I know I started to touch on like some of those misconceptions that do often you hear about, am I going to have to do this or I have to do that?
Well, and yeah, I love this because I have like 20 things I want to say to this. So let me actually maybe demonstrate it and just take a moment, pause and breathe. Because I think maybe before we can talk about misconceptions, maybe we give a name to this. Because I do think for me, embodiment is my ability to be present with myself. And I know, and what's showing up as I feel this is I remember, I started off as a massage therapist all those years ago. And I love how I'm putting my hand on my heart too. So thank you for that. I remember seeing my clients come in and they were stressed out and they had all these things happening. And it was like I could see them swirling in their brain. And we live in this culture that says, you have to figure it out. You have to have the knowledge, the information. And once you figure it out in the head, then everything in your life and in your body is going to be okay, right? That top-down approach, which Shana and I love to have conversations because this is, in essence, a way supremacy culture is ingrained within our neurophysiology. And so I could see them coming in, cycling and stressed, right? And the irony is, like, as a coach, I see the same damn thing. People are like this belief that you have to solve life's problems from this head down, top down, figure it out approach.
The how,
and then,
yeah.
And then somehow, if you have the information and the knowledge and the how, that you're going to be okay. And so I saw them coming in from this, right? Like shoulders up to the ears, all that stuff. And there was like a moment. There was a moment in the session where I would feel them connect back to themselves. Like I just knew. I just sensed it. Now the challenge is they would get up off the table. They would check their phone. Right? And they didn't have the language, right? Because physiologically, the way that we're wired is that part, that emotional part of your brain doesn't have language associated with it. So they would get up off the table, go back and do the same things that they were doing before. So I saw this gap. And I wanted to, as many folks around here, I wanted to help my clients listen to their bodies and all that stuff. And so that's what brought me to coaching. And I love coaching, right? But then coaching does the same damn thing where it's all about mindset, all the things that we're saying. And when I started to understand coaching, I also started to see the moment where my clients dropped down and felt it. And that's where, like, for me, this idea of fiercely aligned, that moment, what is actually happening is a physiological process. Alignment is a physiological process. And so for a lot of holistic practitioners who want to help their clients listen to their bodies, all that stuff, you have to understand the role of coaching to support your work. And for a lot of coaches who love transformation and love personal development, there's this body process that is happening that until you understand what that looks like, what's happening, and how to actually bring it into your sessions, you're only going to get so far, right? You're probably going to feel like you're pushing your clients. Your clients are probably going to like have a lot more excuses instead of results. So to me, embodiment is the point of transformation, because
Mm.
because it's the moment you connect, right? You are physiologically within yourself, and from a physiological standpoint, you actually can start seeing other possibilities. You can start from the writing coach, writing a different story
Mhm.
from that parasympathetic response. And I also think embodiment is the moment where you recognize you have choice, that you
Mm.
have choice in how you want to feel. And that's what changes your life.
Okay, so you said like 30,000 things. I need you to say them all again. Now, this is good. And like, where does this get? So you started to talk a lot about like what I heard and felt as you were saying is it's actually the syncing up, right? Like it's body mind for a reason, because we're talking about the embodiment, getting in the body. Yeah, we're both like, I call it a bubbling up that often happens, and a dropping down. I know you talk like, what are some of the ways, let me ask you this. What are some pieces, and I know you're going to start to share some of this next week in the training. So we'll be dripping and making sure we talk about that too, because it's going to be so fun. For those of you who are watching, but you said like, you can see the shift when they connect with their body. And I know one thing you talked about is like people in a coaching session, like their voice changes.
Mhm. Yeah. What is your question before I jump in and say all the things?
Yeah. Well, what are some of those cues? Again, I think we're still defining a little bit like what embodiment is and how do we know when it's
Yeah.
happening, because it can feel, right, very like intangible and ethereal, but you're talking about a very physiological response.
Can I answer your question in a roundabout way?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because I think you're starting to touch on a common thing that we see that we really work with our coaches on in the program to start shifting
Yes.
is, I don't know how to say this without feeling a little bitchy, so
Way to recognize it, and we will receive.
Because I know a lot of people call themselves an embodiment coach, and this comes to the misconception that embodiment is something that you give to the client. And I think a lot of ways that shows up is we tell our clients to take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
We tell them, we tell people, listen to your breath, pay attention to your body.
Mm-hmm.
And while I have had my fair share of all the meditation events and workshops and retreats, and I love that stuff. What happens, and I hope you remember your initial question so I come back to it.
Yep. I got it.
For so many people who become coaches, who become wellness practitioners, who want to help people take ownership of their health and wellness and, be empowered in their life, one of the biggest complaints that we hear is that we live in a culture that teaches us to disconnect from our bodies and give power of our bodies over to other people, right? People in white coats know our bodies better than we do. Now, I also want to say, absolutely, doctors have their place where we value their expertise, but
Right.
but I hear from so many practitioners that they want to help their clients reclaim ownership of this. And as soon as you tell them to take a deep breath, they have lost ownership of their body.
Because it's like an instruction.
Yes.
It's the very thing you're trying to help
Yes.
them, like you're doing the opposite in
Yes.
many ways.
So
Great
again,
intentions.
right. And so this is like, it's such a subtle way that we don't realize we're actually perpetuating the very same cycle that we want to change.
Mm-hmm.
Because our goal is to help people be present to their bodies. And that means that we can't tell them that. We can only invite it.
Mm.
And I think our role is to be curious. And I want to say, you might, when I stopped trying to give my clients a massage and simply allowed myself to receive their presence and ask their body what it wanted and ask their body what it needed and ask their body where it wanted to go, the entire session changed.
Right.
So there's so many layers to this. And I think when we talk about embodiment, and I think a lot of times we have these woo-woo, like,
Yeah.
And again, I want to say those things are helpful and wonderful. I love them. I listen to my daily meditation, all of that stuff. But if we truly want to support people in actually breaking the cycle and being embodied, we have to shift our approach. And Shayna, it's so subtle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not talking about this whole like breaking down and upending and starting over, right, with everything that you do. So yeah, so talk to us about the simplicity, the subtlety.
Yeah, well, and I mean, part of this is like, this is why I'm doing the training, because I want people to see how a simple structure is going to help move people out of their heads back into their bodies, and then it's actually going to activate their natural physiology to work in favor of how they move forward in their life. So this is why we're combining this coaching structure with this embodiment. What was your question?
Well, first, this is how we talk, everyone. You're welcome. As Laura would say. First, let's just go ahead. What's the training that we're talking about? What's happening next week?
Oh yeah, so
share that real quick, and then we'll come back to it, and we'll make sure all the links are there too.
Yeah, so I think I put it in the description, but
yeah.
So I'm hosting a training. It's all about the conversation gap, and it's really about looking at how to bring in an embodied coaching structure into your work. So if you're a holistic practitioner, I'm going to show you how coaching can actually support what you're doing. And for a lot of you, the untapped potential is literally sitting in front of you. So this is about supporting clients and really deepening their connection within themselves. And for coaches, I'm going to actually show you how embodiment gets to come in and be a part of your coaching structure and how these two things work effortlessly together. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's the details, the description's in there. I'd love to have you join me. And yeah.
So that subtlety that you were saying, it's such a subtle shift. It's not adding this whole other, right? So talk a little bit more about the subtlety.
And I also want to say, again, like, this structure started, right? So I was practicing massage. I got my first coaching certification. And for a lot of you, we have a lot of people who come to us who have both of those, and they sit there and they're like, how the hell do these two go together? Mm-hmm. So it blends really well if you have a holistic practice, or you have, if that's part of your work. Mm-hmm. The subtle shift is in giving ownership back to the person. And I mean, this is where the framework happens. So an example of this, if you were my coaching client and I feel that impulse to be like, why don't you take a deep breath? Instead, I might say something of like, that feels really important. What does that energy need right now? Where do you notice that? What does that energy want to say? And so instead of me trying to tell you and label it for you, I'm actually helping you give voice to something that's present with you. And it is so subtle. But for those of you who wish your clients would listen to their body, trust their intuition, all the things, this is actually how you help them learn how to do it for themselves.
Yeah. You know what I felt as you said that is like,
well, and the thing is, you probably will take a deep breath.
Right. And I got to sit back. Like, I know you were putting me as client, but as coach, or as, the person delivering this service, whatever it is, I thought, oh, okay, great. I don't have to be so attentive, not attentive, but like figuring it all out, trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together as they're talking and trying to stay, connected and attentive, right? Like what I heard was just like, I just get to be alongside.
Mm-hmm. we become partners. It becomes more of an exploration. And you're reminding me, we did a 2-day retreat with some of our coaches earlier this week. And one of them, just in shifting this, what happened when she had that shift is like, woo, right? Then your amazing brain becomes a partner to how you feel. And as soon as she had that shift, she went and like brain dumped like all these things. And then she ended up putting out, she had this idea to do a retreat. So she like just in the moment of feeling the energy, she brain dumped all these things. And then she went and she's like, oh, I can do this, this, and this. And she actually put out that she wants to do a retreat. She had 4 people respond immediately that they were interested. Yeah. She found the location where she's going to do it, all because we just subtly shifted that. If I had sat there and said, let me answer all the questions in your head and logically trying to get you there, we would have missed the magic of what was there. And there was something else that popped up as you said this. Oh, yeah. Did you want to respond to that before my little brain that's all, so this is the thing, when I get embodied, I'm like,
yeah, it's such a connection. And it's this interesting channeling of you. I think we were talking earlier in the week of like, when you get embodied, you really get connected to what is true. And that's usually what is of ease. It's not easier, meaning because we feel like easy means you don't do anything or it's inaction.
There's a difference between ease and easy. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And then like how you want to express it or how it wants to show up, like becomes really simple versus the part of when someone gives you the how, right? Oh, I know what you need. Do, right? Our brain goes, great. I've got a 1, 2, 3, XYZ, 5 steps to amazing, right?
I know how to write my book. I know how to
write my book. I have all the answers.
I know how to prioritize my self-care. I'm good.
Yes.
I'm totally good with that.
Got it. Then you go out in the world and you're like, wait, what was step? How? And you're completely disconnected. You're just following someone else's, again, good intentions, something that maybe worked for them, but it's not yours. And if it's not yours and you haven't received that invitation, right, and you haven't consented, like you haven't bought in, the results are just not going to be there. Or if a result does come, it is often one of our other beautiful souls in our community just was sharing this, like there's usually like one thing that probably was in alignment that you did that actually was connected to you, but you just saw the 5 things, right? And so you think, just keep doing more of those and just more and more and more. Yeah. Yeah,
I call this the advice trap because
as
the coach, as the practitioner, your ego feels good that you helped solve a problem. Because your clients are sitting there and they're like, my shoulders are killing me. And you're like, oh, you should do this. Or your client comes in and says, oh man, I know I should have written 1,000 pages or 1,000 words today and I didn't, right? And and you can think of, well, here's 5 things that are going to help you get there. Mm-hmm. So your ego feels good because you've solved a problem. Mm-hmm. Their head feels soothed.
Yeah.
Because they have the answers. And this goes back to that idea of knowledge alone won't save us. But that's not what empowers action. Having answers does not empower action. Y'all, we would live in a totally different world if that were true. Yeah. And what happens is you actually like that embodiment, right? Because embodiment is the catalyst of transformation. If you haven't engaged their physiology, it's not going to go where it needs to go. And not to mention, for those of you who operate under a scope of practice, you're going against scope when you give someone advice. Period. When you tell somebody to drink water, when you tell them to stretch, when you tell them what they're supposed to do, you are technically going out of your scope of practice. And not to mention, you want to know, like, newsflash, tonight at 11 a.m. or 11 a.m. Tonight at 11 p.m. Your clients know that they need to drink more water.
Yes.
Like, we know everybody, every single one of you listening to this, y'all know what you need to be doing.
Right.
There's no fucking secret. But what does it actually take for you to decide that you want to do it? That is a totally different ballgame. And that is not something that you will ever tell somebody what to do. They have to, like, there's trust and safety that has to be built. There's connection that has to be built. There's so many layers to this. And all of this, Shayna, thank you for being here today because you activated my little projector.
Yay!
All of this happens through embodiment. This is your physiology that happens. And so, I say this all the time, but I think that, like, the holistic community, we make the best coaches, right? And coaches, if you want to radically transform your coaching practice and like 10-time client results, fuck the person who's telling you to follow their 5-step, say this, do this, whatever system that we're all fucking sick of, right? We're all fucking sick of that. And understand how embodiment will shift everything you do with your clients. And it requires you to release your ego of your 5-step thing.
Yeah.
And I say this from a place of like, I know I got a framework, right? Like, I got a framework. It helps me. And if you learn that, that's great. And if you learn it and say, fuck that, this is mine, fuck yes, because like, that's what I want you to take away from this.
Right.
I get fired up about this because I really believe that this skill, learning how to listen and be present with yourself, this is the thing that so many of us are missing. We want this in our education systems. I know it's something that you're passionate about. We want this. God, I dream of like, I partially have dreams of maybe one day running for city council, but I dream of like city council meetings where people understand how to like ground down, how to connect back to their values. Let's talk about what's important, right? Like this has practical applications in business and in life and relationships and health and wellness and writing and graphic design, right? Like all of it comes back to this core principle. And I think all of us are sick of the internet marketing of like, if you just follow this 5-step process, your brain thinks you're going to be safe.
Right. Yeah.
But it doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And then, of course, because like the oppressive system in that is you think you've done something wrong. You just haven't done it enough. You haven't done it hard enough, deep and strong. Like you just need more of it. Yeah. And that just perpetuates the cycle over and over again.
And it's not that these like best practices are wrong or bad. Like you teach very practical things to help people in their writing, which are great. But it's about, here are the practical things. And now let's talk about what's aligned for you.
Yeah. What does that look like for you?
And understanding how to help somebody, because even saying that, somebody is still going to default to, I don't know, Shayna, you're the expert. You should tell me. So again, seems subtle, right? But this is the skill that is going to help change your clients' lives, because to me, it's really about discernment, right? Alignment. The fun part of this is it activates flow, right? How many of you love that sense of flow? This is not something that has to, like, you have to wait for. You can actually curate and cultivate it.
And in a single coaching session, like I witness this all the time, like the needle gets moved immediately when you have this embodied connection and support your clients in this way and understand how to structure the conversation where they are the focus and it is all back to them. And you said something earlier about, putting your ego aside, and there can be some like, but I know so much. And I do. I mean, I've got a flipping PhD, like I know a lot and I claim that. But actually, as you talked about, constantly giving everything back to the client or allowing the client to find their alignment through these embodiment principles, I actually feel more powerful. I feel more helpful. I feel more in my expertise.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to do that. And guess what? They think I'm freaking brilliant. Right? Like, and it creates this other additional, just on the business side of things. Like when you allow someone and hold space for someone to connect back to themselves and realize what they truly want and desire, and help them come up with, support them in finding their aligned action. Like, what can they not do?
Yeah.
That's a forever skill. I learned it through Body Mind and my experience and the framework that works for me. And so there's really, it doesn't mean it's still not a journey, but right, there's really literally nothing that I'm like, I can feel my way forward through this.
Yeah. And so much goodness in this. And I want to be mindful, right? This is, again, kind of coming back to that training. We're talking about one part of the session structure and
Right.
what I want to do, because it's not just, embodiment, and I'm going to tell someone to get there. There's a whole thing, right? There's like these bookends that are supporting this in this session. And, just as you were talking in this training earlier this week, one of the members was like, she's like, Laura, you see the diamond in me, and then you're just helping me uncover it for myself. It's like, oh, thank you for that. Shayna, I have a curiosity question for you, because, and I think this is the other reason why we wanted to do this live, was I know that for many of you around me, you've heard me talk about, a lot of you are holistic practitioners, and there might be some new folks around me who are coaches or service providers. We have graphic designers. We've had people go through Body Mind who are graphic designers, writing coaches, social workers. We have a dog trainer who's in the program right now. So this is relevant in a lot of ways. So I'm kind of curious, the role that embodiment played in you in your career and doing what you're doing now. If you want to share about that.
Yeah. So I kind of alluded earlier, my background is as a teacher, specifically an English professor. So I was a tenured English professor at a small private university for 14 years and knew something was off. Now, I will say there was some groundwork. I have always felt, and partially because I've always been a writer in some way, shape, or form, mainly for myself and out in the world too, through publications, but I've always approached writing and teaching writing in my classes from this, like, trying to access something that was not very common in the setting of school. And I knew the longer I was in that setting, and especially in higher ed, there was just more and more things that weren't aligned with me. And I didn't have the space to go where I wanted to go and do what I wanted to do. And so when I discovered coaching, specifically body mind coaching, it was the thing that gave me voice to what I was feeling and experiencing, that misalignment, that disconnect. And suddenly I had expansion and just realized, oh, wow, I can go so many places with this. So following that, joining Body Mind Coaching, becoming a certified Body Mind coach, and understanding the Body Mind method. And what I love, again, you talked about it earlier, it's a framework, and all of us in all of our different realms get to take it and go where we want to go and support people how we want to support them. And it just became really obvious that I love writing. I love helping people in transformation and connecting back to themselves. And so these things now play together. And now, over a year ago, I am no longer at that university position. I was able to more than replace salary. And more importantly, I was just actually talking about this on a call earlier, like, I am what I do. I'm just expressing like how I am. I don't feel like I work anymore in the same ways I did as a teacher. It's just like a constant embodiment kind of experience. How did I think about it? And living that and seeing what that gets to look like and how it gets to be put out in the world. So my journey in just 2-3 years has taken me on such an amazing journey. Such an amazing experience. So,
and I always remember the first time that I met you in person. You were just tell me the answers.
Yeah, I very much wanted.
Tell me how to do this. I'm ready. Tell me how to do this.
I was going to take my spin on it, but I did. Yeah, I wanted some answers. Like,
which is usually the thing that pisses most people off about when they come in.
And that's what I was as a teacher, and that's how I am as a coach too. We're like, students like, okay, how do I write this? How many pages? All this kind of stuff, and it's, I don't know. I don't know what you want to do. I don't know what you want to say. How can we? Right? It was the very thing, but yet, yeah, when it is something new and different, and because we often are living in such disconnection, when we start to get connected back to ourselves, you very much, your brain very much, it's linear. It wants to know the how. And that's not, what's so powerful is once you get connected to the body and then those two sync up, it's just so much ease.
Yeah. The how. Yeah. And that always brings up the Albert Einstein quote of the intuitive mind is a gift. The rational mind, a servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Mm-hmm. And so when you understand like the physiology, and I'm going to talk about the physiology during the training of like what this actually, I will talk, not here on the training.
No. Yeah. Next week. Make sure you check the link.
Yeah. How this actually works together. And when you get that, you're like, oh, hot damn. Right. Because your brain is amazing. It's brilliant. Right. But it's when we think that we have to start from the top and have it figured out that most people feel stuck in their lives. Mm-hmm. So when you activate through embodiment, this body-mind connection, your brain actually becomes really powerful in a way that feels aligned. So, and I also wanted to say this earlier of like, and I think this is why I get really frustrated in the coaching world, because when a coach is more committed to their 5-step process than they are to you and your growth, they are no longer coaching you.
Yeah. It's consulting.
But I mean, even I just feel like that's where the disservice is that, we've coaching has turned into this, just like follow my things, right? Like, and and I just want to say there's places for those things in your business. But when we're talking about being in a coaching connection, a coaching relationship with someone, that is not coaching. And if you ever have a coach that just tells you need to think harder and think more positive and just do the system, work the system, and they're not actually listening to what you need, that's also not coaching.
Yeah.
And Shayna, okay, so to get back on topic, were there any misconceptions of embodiment that you had that maybe have shown up for you in your journey?
Yeah, I think one thing I always thought, because I knew pretty quickly I was going to be working virtually with my coaching and my my programs and things, containers of support, I was like, okay, how do I bring this embodiment thing in? And I think I always thought I had to, and I did some of this early on, always had to have a meditation ready, or always had to, walk someone through some kind of closed eye, breathing, whatever kind of moment. And I always thought there was like, or a little bit of like, okay, do I do it now? Like when do I have to do it? Like there was a proper order or something to it. Does that make sense? So those were some of the misconceptions I had, sort of leaning into it. Yeah.
And I know as a facilitator, it's like, I can hear myself of like, I taught you a method and people do the thing where if I have to I have to follow the method. Once you see it and you understand it, I mean, I'm going to just share all my favorite quotes in this little live. Know the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. Right. Once you know the framework, what you realize is embodiment is really present throughout the whole thing, but that structure is there to help guide people forward. Mm-hmm. And then it's so I think, again, there's a place for these things. We want to learn things, right? People will come into the body mind coaching program. You're going to learn the standards and the competencies. You're going to learn the coaching foundations. You're going to learn this structure. And I was actually thinking about this, and this might be another live. It's like 5 lives in one. That's one beautiful, like, quick started thing. So part of the learning process is you do learn the thing, but what makes us different and how we operate is we're like, here's the thing, and now what does your embodiment say? What does this mean for you? How do
Yeah.
you want to live this and share this and so it just takes a moment when you learn something new to see that.
Yeah.
And then I personally think, like, I know that there's a lot of coach trainings out there and all that stuff. Coaching is there are frameworks and skills and foundations that are powerful and have their place. But to really be a coach, you also have to understand your embodiment. And there's massive amounts of surrender and presence, right? Even we talked about surrendering your ego and wanting to be right and wanting to have answers. There's a lot of work around, I think one of the things we see and you experienced and a lot of our members talk about is like, it's so damn easy. How can I get paid for something that feels so easy, right? So we're bringing in worthiness. We're bringing in, and folks who come from a profession where you physically have to work and do to make money, to step into this amazing framework and feel like you're doing nothing, and people will pay you more for it. It's a bit of a mind fuck, right?
Yeah.
So there's so much deepening. And I find for myself, the more that I continue my coaching development, it's like simpler, lighter, right? And the willingness to receive for something that feels so simple and obvious is a lot of where that work comes in.
Yeah.
So
okay, I want to share 2 things and start to wrap us up because
What?
we could go on
I just
forever.
wanna stay here forever. Okay.
I know. Laura and I could just keep going. So first, if you want to really understand more about this discussion around the conversation and embodiment, and maybe start to feel into what could be some gaps that would really support you and serve you as a coach, as a holistic wellness professional, we want to make sure you go and check out the training that Laura is doing next week. It's in the description. Looks like Laura maybe popped in somewhere, somewhere smart. And we want to see you there. We're so excited about the dozens and dozens of people who are already registered. And if you have any questions about it, I'm just going to wink on that a little bit. Send me a message. I can give you some insight. And I also know if you're like, you know what, I'm ready to skip to the front of the line. This is all sounding and nodding, allowing me to nod along. This is what I've been asking for, waiting for, to understand how to deepen my work with the people that I want to help. Then we want to make sure you know too that you can reach out around actually joining the Body Mind Coaching program. We've got some really yummy early access things that you can have right now if it is a good fit. And our team is amazing. As you can see, we have a lot of embodied rapport amongst us. So feel free to raise your hand in the comments or send me a direct message. We've got lots of different ways to connect. And we're just excited to continue to share this and talk about it. And we're excited for all of you to connect with us. Anything else you want to share?
I love this. I hope you all like this. I love this. This is what lights me up. And I want to say for the training, I just want to be very clear. I love teaching. So this is not going to be a training where you're like, I feel good, but I didn't learn jack shit. So
you're going to get so much good.
I am literally teaching the framework. You are going to see this framework. I'm teaching, I should be more mindful. The Body Mind method, there is a lot that goes with this. I am teaching specifically this coaching structure. So you are actually going to learn that. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say this is because this also goes to why we have the coaching certification. Understanding and seeing the framework is one thing, living embodying, and like actually becoming a coach, that's not something I can teach in a 90-minute training.
Right.
That is something that it takes time, it takes practice, it takes, there's a deeper process that happens there. So I will be outlining what this session looks like, what it means to have an embodied coaching framework in your sessions. We'll be talking about the physiology in a fun, light way. I promise.
Yeah.
Not too serious. I mean, not too heady.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be awesome. So love all that. And Shayna, I love you. Thank you for this invitation.
Love you too. Yay.
Like, let's do this. Let's do this now. So
how about now?
we can't wait to have you there too. And it's going to be epic. So I just, get your booty there. You will walk away like, holy shit, I see, like just seeing this is going to change how you show up and serve your clients, I promise. And also if you've been considering becoming a coach, if you've been looking for certification programs, we got you. It's pretty epic. So
yeah, I will just say the fall of 2018 was the first training I ever saw from Laura. And there's been a whole lot of transformation since. So I'll just claim a relatively highly educated person who definitely values education. Like, I'm so glad that I sat through and, engaged in that training, because what would I be doing? Oh my goodness. Okay. So get your booty there next week. And then if you're ready for more, just hit me up and we will make sure you get all the info.
Okay. Sounds good. Bye, everybody. Bye.